Hilchas Tumas Tzara'as Perik Revi. So we learned that the Simoni Tuma, we said was Sar Lovan and Michya, which the Rambam discussed already in Perik Beis and Perik Gimel, and now he discusses the halachas of Pisoyin. Pisoyin means that the nega is becoming, is extending. Perik Revi. Ha-Pisoyin mitame bekolshu. There's no share how much it has to spread. It has to be mitame, it could be mitame bekolshu. It has to spread to one of the maras hanigoyim. In order for a nega to have a din of a nega, the minimal it has to be is white kikrum beitza. Something that's not as white as kikrum beitza is called a beyak. If there was a baharis, which was the size of a gris, and therefore it was a royal lehesger, so there was a hesger, and now it spread, but it didn't spread the mara of kikrum beitza or more, but rather less bayak. So that's not called spreading. That's not called that the nega spread. Avol mhoya pisoyin mara bayak any pisoyin. That's the number one. Then it's weiter veina pisoyin simen tuma at sheyifsa chutz lenega, which we learned already. Avol imposa letecha nega. So then is harei kumeshoya. If it's spread inside toward the inside, that's not called pisoyin kesa. Baharis ubetecha basar chai, which was pachas mikadasha. Whereas if the basar chai was a kadasha, so then obviously it's already tummy. It's already tummy muchlet. But over here we're talking about you have a baharis, and inside you have basar chai, which is a michya, and that's pachas mikadasha. Or the same tzir could be that it's a kadasha, but it's not far enough from the edge of the baharis. The hizgira and mele there was hezger because there was the shear of the baharis and there wasn't simet tuma of hechlet. And then u'b'seif hashavua nismata hamichya mimasha hoisa. So the michya is smaller. There's no basar chai. So the din is ein ze pisoyin. Why sheina beheres peisel letecha lechutzlo? Which really we learned this already in the previous parak. Halacha beis ein hapisoyin simen tuma ad sheyeh achar hezger. So the whole din of pisoyin means that this person came to a matzav where he had a din of tumas hezger. It's not because you saw pisoyin. You have to, first of all, he has to be in a matzav that there is a din that he's hezger. So in other words, you saw a baharis, and memele of his giri came that there was a chalesh shem's hezger. And now, after that chalesh shem hezger, there was a pisoyin, and that pisoyin came at the end of the week of the hezger. So at that point in time, there's a simen tuma. Nochamal, ein pisoyin simen tuma at sheyeh achar hezger. Aval and he comes originally, and Baruch Kain is a nega, and he sees the nega shul peisav eilich. He sees that the nega is spreading. So it was never there a din hezger, and then there was a pisoyin. It was mechatchila pisoyin. So the din is eni machlite ele mazgiri at seif hashavua v'yiro. At that point in time, even though he's seeing pisoyin, so it's as if he doesn't see pisoyin, he's seeing a beheres, and therefore there's a hezger, and the din of hezger is that you see him at the end of the week. Halachi gimel. Eina beheres peisel letecha shchin, v'letecha michya, v'lei letecha michva, v'lei letech michyas hashchin, v'lei letech michyas hamichva, and also v'lei l'reish v'lei l'zoken. So the din of pisoyin has to be that there should be pisoyin in the regular flesh. In the regular flesh, there's pisoyin. The regular flesh means not in a shchina, not in a michva, or not in michyas hashchina, not in michyas hamichva, and not also in the reish and the zoken. Even though this reish and zoken no longer have hair, it's not that there's hair there, but nevertheless it has to be into the skin, which is not the reish and the zoken. So it has to be be'er means in the regular skin, which is the regular part of the body. So in other words, if you have an area which has a skin, which has it's discolored, and it's the color of a bayak. Bayak means it's not white enough to be a nega. It's less than the whiteness of the level of being white of kikrum beitza. So that has a din, legabi this din of pisoyin like regular skin, and therefore if the nega, which was the baharis, which was white enough to be a baharis, and now it's being spread to a place which is white of a shear of a bayak, so then that's considered a pisoyin. That's considered a pisoyin. Halacha daled, hashchin v'hamichva, or v'haboyak, or a michias hashchin, or a michias hamichva, shein chelkin bein ha'oim lepishoyin, is any simen tuma. So you have a baharis. You have a baharis which is the regular size of baharis, and that caused there should be hezger. And now next to this baharis, there's also a shchin, or a michva, or michias hashchin, michias hamichva. And lepeil, there was a pisoyin, but the Bishoyin didn't come right next to the Baharis. In other words, there was some more Baharis spread, but beyond the Shechin or the Mikvah. So the spreading of the Baharis is not actually touching the original the Baharis. There's the Shechin or Mikvah in between the spreading of the Baharis and the actual Baharis itself, which is calling the Oim, which is the original source, the mother, so to speak, the original source of the Baharis. Nachmal. Hashchin v'amichva, or v'aboyak, or a Michias Hashchin, or Michias HaMichva, sheim chilkin bein ha'oim lepishoyin. There was a Pishoyin from the original Baharis, which was called the Oim, but on Lepel, this Pishoyin didn't come right next to the Baharis. This was it separating between the Pishoyin and the original Baharis, as Einisim and Tumah, because the Tumah has to, the spreading has to be directly that the Baharis extended itself. Now his Girei, the person had his Baharis and he was a Girei, and Behol Cholam, and now the Shechin and Michvah left, Ad Shenimtza Pishoyin Samach Leim. And now, as a result of the fact that this Shechin and Michvah left, so now this Baharis is next to this Pishoyin. So the din is Ariza Muchlat. That's considered Muchlat. That is considered Muchlat. Now the Maisa is, it's hard to understand because L'chura, if you have a Baharis, and next to the Baharis is the Shechin or Michvah, and then there was a spreading which was beyond the Shechin or Michvah. So we're saying that spreading is not called spreading. But now let's say the Shechin and the Michvah went away, and now this spreading is next to the Baharis, so now it is considered a spreading. But L'chura, if the Shechin and the Michvah went away, so L'chura, you have to have that over there, should also be Baharis. Because there has to be that the Shechin and Michvah also is now Baharis. So L'chura, the Shechin and Michvah Baharis, why do you have to say that the Pishoyin is because of the Baharis that was originally there and it was separated between the Shechin and the Michvah? And the Oim, L'chura, typically, because right now the Shechin and the Mikvah went away, and now obviously there's Baharis over there, because if there's no Baharis in the place where the Shechin and the Mikvah is, so again it's not really considered a Pishoyin. So it sounds like as if Be'emes there was a Baharis, and then there was Shechin and Mikvah, and then there was a Pishoyin beyond the Shechin and Mikvah, and now that the Shechin and Mikvah went away, so now that Pishoyin, which was beyond the Shechin and Mikvah, is connected to the original Baharis. But it won't be connected. It'll only be connected if there'll be more Baharis in the place where the Shechin and Mikvah was. So L'chura, what do I need to have a Din Pishoyin mitzad that part of the Baharis, which spread originally, typically because of what's happening now? The Shechin and Mikvah went away and there was Baharis. I saw that the Frankel Rambam brings from Mikdash David that discusses this shaila. I don't know the answer. Halacha Hey, Baharis ke gris, ufasaso ke chatzi gris ve'ed, aber v'holach mino'im ke chatzi gris. It started off with a gris, and now it added another gris, chatzi gris ve'ed was added, but from the original gris, half of the gris went away. So l'chura, now you have more than you started with. There's aval pisha noisim mino'im, ima pisoyin is doch yesim ke gris, so l'chura should have it in a pisoyin, it should be a siman tumah. Nevertheless, not only is it not a siman tumah, the Ram says Ariza Tor. It's mamish Tor. Whereas the chatzi gris of the original one is not matame, and now this chatzi gris va'ed, which was added, is also not matame. So it's kilu, like you have two negoim which are separate and they're not kashir. It's a chidush. In other words, even though they're next to each other, half of the original one was left over, and another half came. And you have more than you started originally. But since the original one is no longer there, it is no longer a share of the original one, and now what it was added was also not a share, so they're considered like two separate negoim. They're considered like two separate negoim, and they're not even a hezker. It's kilo like he has no nega. Now hoisa kegris, if originally started with a gris, and then upasa kegris ve'ed, and the addition was a gris ve'ed, and v'hol chuleim, and the original gris left. So over here, Lepel is he's talking about the new gris va'id. But on the other hand, it's not called pasasa because the original gris left. So therefore, it's tirah b'tchila. Now we start a new counting. Because the din is that there's a hezger of 2 weeks. Now over here, since Lepel, the original Baharis left, so therefore that's gone. And now we have this new Baharis, which is kigris va'id. So now we start new. So there's a new hezger. And v'yazger shavua acha shavua. Now hoisa be Baharis v'izgirei. He had a Baharis and Lepeli, there was a Hezger. And then V'holcha Baharis B'seifim Hezger. At the end, there was no longer a Baharis. A Lepel, V'chozra Baharis B'mkeim K'mesha Hoysa. A Baharis came back. The Baharis was no longer there, and it came back, And is Hareu Kamishois, it has the same din as it was, and which means that it's considered already that there was 1 week of Hezger. That's the Chidush. The Shaila is there, there's only 2 weeks of Hezger. So if this is a new Nega, so then it would be considered now there's new 2 weeks. Masha'inkin, since this is the old Nega that came back, so therefore because Mishnah, it's hard to understand the tzir, because Mishnah says it's talking about that the Kohen didn't yet say anything. Whereas if the Kohen would see him that he doesn't have a Baharis, and he would say, no, so you're potter. You're potter, you're tired, you could go out. And he has to have to be toivel because he had a Hezger. But the Pele no longer has a Nega. So now this new Baharis that comes back is l'chura a new din, so there's a din of 2 weeks. Over here is talking about the Kohen came, he saw that there was no Nega. Before he had a chance to say anything, the Nega resurfaced, Keilu. So we say, no, that's the original Nega. And therefore it's Hareu Kamesha Hoisa, and therefore from now on he has only 1 more week of Hezger. Now Nismata B'techi Mea Hezger. He knows that during the Hezger it was Nismata, and then it was Posasa, and then it became longer and bigger, and then the Chazer Kamesha Hoisa, Eshe Posasa, or first, during the Hezger there was a Posasa, and then the Nismata Pisoin, and then the Chazer Kamesha Hoisa. Now it's back to where it was originally. So the din is Areza Yazgar Yifter. In other words, what happens during the Hezger is irrelevant. What's negay is when the Kohen comes along on the 7th day after the Hezger, what he sees is that's what the halach is. The fact that this person that was at a Mitzera, or even if the Kohen saw him during the Mei Hezger, and Lepel, there was a Zman of Pasasa, there was a Zman of Nismata, so all these dinim don't mean anything. Because in other words, Nismata would be negay whether we started New Cheshbon, and Pasasa would be negay whether or not there was a din of Mukhlat, that he's a Mukhlat Dikatomi. So all these things don't count, because what's negay is what he saw before and what he sees b'seif yimei ha'hezger. Halacha vav. Baharis kigris, you started off with a gris, upasasa kigris, and then it added another gris, and v'noilad b'pisoyen michya isei lovin. In this new gris that was added, there was a michya isei lovin, and the whole choloi ha'im, and the original naga left. So the din is teirah betchila, so now is teirah betchila. Now l'chura lepeil mamish, there's a pisoyim, there's a michya, or there's a seir lovin, so l'chura it's a simon tumah. So l'mayin afkamina if teirah betchila. Normally teirah betchila is negay to hezger. If you make a hezger, how many hezger he makes? How many weeks? But over here, since you have simoni tumah, so l'chura l'mayin afkamina, that's teirah betchila. The Ramar brings from a Rashash that the pshat is, knows, the question is he still in the middle of the hezger? Is he still in the middle of the hezger? Because obviously when the Kohen is going to say muchlet, so he's going to become a nega muchlet. But the question is, did he finish with the hezger, or is he still an extension of the original hezger and waiting to say muchlet? So if he's in the middle of the hezger, so he has the din of the hezger, so maybe he can't just go to the mikveh and be toivel because he's still in the middle of the hezger. Lepel, he had a nega, and now he still has a nega. So Kili is in the middle of the hezger. Masha'inkin, if he's no longer in the middle of the hezger, so all he has to do is be toivel and have shemesh, and he's stored until the kohen actually says you're muchlet. So that's what he's saying, that since it's a new nega, the original nega left, and now there's a new nega, so since it's a new nega, so Mamela, the hezger finished, and now all he has to do is go to the mikveh and be toivel, and lepel, tirah b'tchilu, when the kohen is going to say muchlet, it's muchlet. It's a little hard to understand that's pshat in the Rambam. But I'll call part of that's the din. Let's read it again. Baharis kigris, you had a Baharis original kigris, ufosas kigris, and now you have another gris, and v'neil de bepisoy and michya isei lovin. In this additional gris, there was a michya isei lovin, and v'hol cholei ha'im, and the original gris is no longer there. Is tirah betchila. So now you look at this new gris with the michya or the seir lovin betchila. Now hoysabei Baharis kigris, he had a Baharis kigris v'his girei. Now he comes at the end of the week and he sees it's the side of a seller. And Safik Shehihi, he's not really sure if this is the original nega, which was originally kigris and now it's a seller. So obviously now it's muchlet because they were pisoyim. Or Safik Shehiacher is ba'tachteh, or maybe the original one left and now this is a new one. So now there's a new hezger. Now it's not the original nega which extended. So the din is Ariza Tomei, we nemam bepashtos, that is the original nega. Not choishish to say that it was the original nega left, and this is a new nega, and therefore it is a new hezger. We assume that it's the original nega which extended. Halacha zayin. Baharis kigris, you have a Baharis kigris, v'chut yetzim imenu. You have a chut coming out of this Baharis, which is extending, and also a nega which is extending from the Beheres. And we want to know if this chut is considered part of the Beheres, and therefore it'll be Metami B'Seir Lovan or B'Pisoyin, or it's not part of the Beheres. So as I say, Im Yesh B'Reichav Shtei Cyrus, if this chut has the width of Shtei Cyrus, is Zoykika, so then it's considered an extension of the original Beheres, and therefore the Seir Lovan will Pisoyin. So then if there'll be Seir Lovan in this chut, or there'll be Pisoyin from this chut, so it's considered that the Beheres extended, because this is an extension of the Beheres. Avalei Lemichya, even though it has a chut which is the shear of 2 Cyrus, but you can't have a michya in this chut. Why? Because she'ina michya siman tumah shetakavesa Beheres. Until the michya is only a siman tumah unless the Beheres completely encircles it, and also the year being seifa michya v'seifa Beheres reichav tzmicha shtei Cyrus. There has to be between the end of the michya and the end of the Beheres a reichav shtei Cyrus. And if you have a chut which is the whole width of the chut of shtei Cyrus, obviously you can't have such a situation with a michya. Now that's the number one. Now hoyu shtei Beheres, you have 2 Beheres, and the chut yetzim mizul lezu, from each one goes out of there's a chut extending from these 2 Beheres. So now the question is it considered one Beheres? Now each Beheres has to be the size of a gris. You can't be mitzaref the Beheres from through the chut in the size of the gris. But on the other hand, the question is it considered one Beheres or 2 Beheres? Is im yesh b'reichav shtei Cyrus? If there's a reichav shtei Cyrus in this chut, which is connecting the two negoim, the 2 Beheres, is mitzarfen. V'imlav eini mitzarfen. Mashal, if you have one Saira in one Beheres and the other Saira in the other Beheres, so if it's one Beheres, so Mela has 2 Sairas. But if it's 2 Beheres, so each Beheres only has 1 Saira. Now his girei shavua acha shavua, v'linelid le'simen tuma upatre, u'la'acher aptur pasa hanega kolshu. So the din is hareza muchlat, which has nothing to do with this halacha. It's not connected to the chut. The din is that if you have a nega, and this nega you seger 2 weeks, that's the shear of how much you can be seger, a week after 2 weeks, and now you were paiterim because there was no pisoyin, and then there was a pisoyin, so the din is hareza muchlat. Halacha ches, Beheres shetar mitei chesger. You had a Beheres, and then there was a hesger 2 weeks, and now it's tar because lapel there was no simoni tuma. Or there were simoni tuma, and those simoni tuma went away. Shaholchem imenu simoni tuma. So the din is a masgir b'leilam. This Beheres will never be used to be masgir because lapel the second din you had a Beheres, and that Beheres has simoni tuma, and now those simoni tuma went away, so he becomes tar. If he would have had a Beheres without simoni tuma, you would have been masgir. You're right, Litaka. If you would have had a Beheres without simoni tuma, you would have been masgir. But since this Beheres had simoni tuma, and those simoni tuma went away, so now he becomes tar, and you're not masgir. That's l'chura pashta din. Now, the first part of the din that he was tar and mitech hezger is l'chura obvious. L'chura, since he was tar and mitech hezger, that's the din. That if you have a Beheres that had hezger, so 2 weeks is hezger. You don't have more than 2 weeks hezger. And if there's noilat simoni hechlet, so then he becomes tummy. So the question is, what's this beginning of this din? Beheres shetar b'tech hezger, so you're emas girinba. Does the din that after 2 weeks of hezger, that's when he's matarim. So the Ramara brings from the Kesef Mishnah, but he asks on him that lechura that over here is talking about that the color changed. In other words, the color changed. Because you had a Beheres, and that Beheres had, let's say, a color which was kikruma beitza, and now you had hezger for 2 weeks, and now it became azak hashelik. So nevertheless, emas gin b'leil. That would be the chiddush. Halacha tes. Beheres shekon so acher aptur, and you were paid to it already, and now it became smaller, and then upasaso l'kamesha hoisa, and it went back to the way it was originally. Eshepasaso, or it became bigger after the ptur, and b'chazil l'kamesha hoisa, is arehu b'tarasi, it remains tor. In other words, this Beheres, which was already acher aptur, originally there was a Beheres, it was a hezger or a hechlet, and lepel, after the ptur, it became smaller, and now it became back to the way it was originally. Or it was bigger, it became bigger, and then it went back to the way it was originally. So either way is harei b'tarasi. So that could be really the pshat in the beginning of halacha ches, that Beheres shetar b'tech hezger, so then that Beheres will never be used to again be masgerim. And even though, like in halacha tes, this Beheres was konsa acher aptur, in other words, there was already a ptur, and now it was konsa acher aptur, but then it was pasasa. But since it was part of the original Baharis, which was already Achrab Tur, so therefore that Baharis can never be used for Hezker. Halacha Yud. Baharis Kigris, you have a Baharis Kigris, Uba Michya Ka'adasha, it has side of Michya, and also the Seir Lovan B'techa Michya. In the Michya there's also a Seir Lovan, and Vechlite, so the Peil is Tamei. Now, La'achar Hechlet, after he was Muhuklet for Tamei, Hol Cha Michya, the Michya is no longer there. So nevertheless, it's Tamei, and the Seir Lovan is there. So since the Seir Lovan is there, so that's Matami. Holach HaSeir Lovan is Tamei, Pnei HaMichya. Now, Hoya HaSeir Lovan B'techa Be'eres, you had a Seir Lovan B'techa Be'eres, V'holach HaSeir Lovan is Tamei, Pnei HaMichya. Hol Cha Michya is Tamei, Pnei HaSeir Lovan. So in this din, you can have the Seir Lovan B'techa Michya, that's also a din, that the Seir Lovan can be B'techa Michya. And then even though the whole Chala Michya, he's still Tamei, so Mela, what does it mean, whole Chala Michya? That it became Baharis. So even though normally the Seir Lovan has to be Mitecha Baharis, but that's also called Mitecha Baharis. In other words, if you have a Michya, which is in a Baharis, and that Michya, there's a Seir Lovan in that Michya. There's a Seir Lovan in that Michya. And now Hol Chala Michya, so now the Seir Lovan is Mitecha Baharis, so Mela it's also Metami. And the Pirush HaMishnayos he explains, the Rambam explains that the Pshat is because since the Michya is the Siman Tumah of this Nega, so it's considered like it's part of the Nega. So in other words, normally, again, the Seir Lovan has to come Mitecha Baharis. But over here, it's L'churi came Mitecha Michya, and the Michya L'churi is regular Basar. But nevertheless, since the Michya is the Siman Tumah of this Baharis, so the Seir Lovan, which was Mitecha Michya, is also a Siman Tumah. And Hol Chala Michya, so Memela, it's still Tumah Mitzad the Seir Lovan. That's this din. Nochmal. Baharis Kigris, Uba Michya Ke'adasha, and the Seir Lovan B'techa Michya, Vechlite, Ula'acher Hechlet Holcha Michya, is Tamim from the Seir Lovan. The Seir Lovan, which was in the Michya, is now also the Siman Tumah, which now over there, what does it mean, Holcha Lama Michya, it became all over the Baharis. Now, Holach HaSeir Lovan is Tamim, Pnei HaMichya, that's L'chura Pasha. Now, Hoya HaSeir Lovan B'techa Baharis, and V'holach HaSeir Lovan is again Tamim Pnei HaMichya, which is L'chura also Pasha. And Holach HaMichya is Tamim Pnei Seir Lovan. Halacha Yudalev, Baharis, Uba Michya, and there was also Pisoy. There was a Michya, and then there was also Pisoy. Now, Holcha Michya, now the Michya went away, is Tamim Pnei HaPisoy. Holach HaPisoy, the part that was added to the Baharis went away, aber Tamim Pnei HaMichya, it's still Tamim Pnei HaMichya. V'chein, the same, so we're talking about a Pisoy and a Michya. V'chein, B'Seir Lovan Upe Pisoy. No, before he spoke about a Seir Lovan and a Michya, now then he spoke about a Michya and a Pisoy. Now he's speaking about a Seir Lovan and a Pisoy. V'chein B'Seir Lovan and a Pisoy. He has the Sai Seir Lovan and the Sai Pisoy. And the Chlite B'Seir Lovan and V'holach HaSeir, aber V'chazer B'Seir Lovan Acher. Now there's another Seir Lovan. In other words, the original Seir Lovan, what was there, which caused the Chlite, is no longer there, but now there's other Seir Lovan. Oy, Shenel Dili Michya, a Pisoy. In other words, he was Tamei because of Seir Lovan. Now he's in a matzav where the original reason for the Tumah went. But Lepil, now there's another reason for a Tumah, which is the Michya. And the original reason for the Tumah was the Seir Lovan. And now the Seir Lovan left, but Lepil, he has a Michya or Pisoy. Oy She'echliti b'Michya, and V'holcha Michya, or B'venil Dili Michya Acheres. He had one Michya, and that Michya left, but now he still has another Michya. Oy Seir Lovan, a Pisoy. Oy She'echliti b'Pisoy, and V'holach HaPisoy, V'chazer b'Pisoy Nacher. It added from a different side. Eshenel de Bamichya, Yisrael Loven. All these dinim hareze betumose k'mishois. In other words, you don't have to read. There was a person that was tummy muchlat because of simoni tuma, and those simoni tuma left. But lepeil, he now still has simoni tuma, so we don't have to recalculate. Because he doesn't become toyer and tummy again. He still remains tummy because he had simoni tuma, and as a result of that, there was a hechlet. He was muchlat as a tummy. And now he still has simoni tuma, not the original simoni tuma, other simoni tuma. That's it. Now, if he became, in other words, l'chatchila when he came, he was huchlat, which means he came with seir lovan or michya. Eisha huchlat b'seif shivur rishon, there was neilat simoni tuma, which could be pisoyin or sar lovan or michya. A b'seif shivur sheni, yacher aptur, aber heil v'huchlat mikol mokim. The pale he was huchlat is any Torah, he doesn't become Torah, actually yishar b'simen tuma. Le simen hechlet, le simen acher. He shouldn't have any simoni tuma, and only then could he have, does he become Torah. So that's this din that we learned before, that even though he was huchlat with one siman tumah, and that siman tumah which caused him to be huchlat is no longer there, the Rambam said in all different cases, but nevertheless, since there's another siman tumah that's there, so therefore that siman tumah causes that he should remain tumah. That's the type. So lay siman hechlet, or no, the siman that he was originally huchlat by, v'lay siman acher, or another siman of tumah. There should be no simanei tumah left.